and welcome to day 4 of the week of wax. Well done for making it this far, and a huge congratulations, because it is no small task. We've been working through a lot this week, and hopefully you've been building up your wax skills and feeling a bit more confident working with the materials, with the different tools and all the bits and pieces. So today we're going to try something a little bit different. You will need a heat pen or a soldering iron for today. If you don't have one, I'd say still look at the videos and explore and see if it's something that you might like to invest in. They really vary in price, from quite affordable through to quite expensive, so there's lots of different options to explore. But we're going to be doing a little bit of build-up technique today, so you can see in a couple of the samples here, which I'll talk you through in more detail in the tutorial. It's a different style to the carving which we've been doing so far. We're actually heating the wax and building it up, but it is tons of fun. It's probably my favorite of the techniques that we're doing this week, and I hope that some of you will really enjoy it as well. As always, come and share what you get up to inside the Facebook group and tag us on Instagram at Jewellers Academy. I would love to see your progress, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow for the final day of our week of wax. Hello, I'm Jessica Rose, and in this short tutorial today I'm going to show you how to make a heart-shaped charm using the wax build-up technique. Let's get started. So let's take a look at what we're going to be making today. So in this tutorial we're going to have some fun with wax, and we're going to be exploring the build-up technique and making some really simple little pendants or charms. We're going to make a little heart one, like this guy. So if you're used to carving in wax, this is a totally different method, and I'm excited to introduce you to it and show you because it's a lot of fun. We do have a comprehensive course in the build-up technique. We have a couple of courses. This is like a mini tutorial, so it's a great starting point. But if you enjoy this, I definitely recommend checking out our more in-depth courses, and it's also covered a lot more in the wax diploma 1-year course we have as well online. So there's a little heart, there's a little circle. You can see I've done it in green wax. It doesn't matter if you're working in green or blue or a different type of wax. The main differences in the waxes for this purpose today is they have different melting temperatures. So if I was working with the green wax, I would need my heat pen to be a bit hotter. With the blue wax, it doesn't need to be quite as hot. And there are other waxes that are even lower melting temperature. You can easily Google the melting temperature of the wax that you're using if you're struggling, and see if you need one with a lower or a higher one. This is a really fun design. This was done by my son, Harry. He just did a little drawing, and I've turned that into wax, which was nice. And so this is going to get cast into silver. So all of these can be cast into a metal of your choice: silver, gold, bronze, whatever you choose. And it's just a really fun project where we're going to be playing with heat and wax. So what we need for this is a heat pen. And there's a few different options. So you can use a soldering iron, and this is what most people will start with. So it's just as simple as that. It's a simple soldering iron. You can buy them online. You want a kind of pointed tip or a sharp tip so that you can get the detail. You can see this one's been used for wax a bit, and the heating element here, you want to turn it up to around 200 to 250. So you probably want it on the lower end. So this starts at 200 and goes up to 450. So we don't want it too high. So 200 to 250 should be fine. They can smoke a little bit. So when you're working with them, if they're smoking, that's normal. Don't worry about it. If you're worried, you can always pop open a window, and they will get hot. So you just plug it in, turn it on, and off you go. But I do like to be a little bit fancy. So I've got my own fancy version over here, which is more expensive and I love, but also not necessary. So whichever works for you is fine. So this is the Pendant wax carver. And I think the soldering irons at the moment, at the time of filming this, are around £30, and this is around 150 to 200. So it is a significant increase in investment. But if you love this technique and you want to take it further, you might choose to upgrade to something like this. You just have a bit more control over the heat. It's a little bit neater, and also there are lots of different tips that you can get for the end. So today I'm just going to use a straight one. but you can get a whole set with all the different tips, and it's got a little cork section here, so I can just lay it down and it acts as a stand. So yeah, I've fallen in love with it. I've come to love it. Anyway, we're going to turn it on because we're going to need it in a little bit, and I'm going to turn it on to number 3 to start with. I'll often work between 3 and 4. If I was working on green wax, I would go to 4, but because we're working with blue wax, I'm going to start at 3. So I'm just going to put that to one side for now and let it heat up while we move on to working on our design. So I'll pop these off as well. So I'm going to start with a bit of tracing paper and a pen, and all I want to do is draw out the shape that I want. And I'm just going for a heart, so that's quite easy. I'm going to put it roughly in the middle. And I can leave it like that, but because I want it to be a bit thicker, I like to kind of sketch around the sort of parameters that I'm going to be using, just to give me a visual of what it's going to look like and decide whether I want to commit to that shape or not. Don't have to do that. With this design, which was more complex, we just worked from a line drawing for this one. But because it's a nice simple one, going a bit more in with the thickness. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to get some sheet wax. This is what I'm going to be working from today. I'll often just pop it right next to the section that I'm going to work on. I'll use my optivisors. You don't have to if you're not blind like me, but I always use my optivisors so that I can see nice and close. And I'm going to start testing if my piece is hot enough. So yes, it's starting to melt, which is great. Now, obviously, health and safety, I don't want to touch this element with my fingers at all because it's hot. And I'm just going to start applying my wax a little bit at a time. You can, particularly with the soldering iron, you can go in much thicker, but I quite like to work in small sections and have a bit more control. Now where it's stringing like that, it means it's not quite hot enough. My pen is not quite hot enough, so I'm just going to give it a bit more time. And it also might turn it up just a smidge, between 3 and 4. If my pen gets too hot, the wax melts so quickly that it has no control and it just turns into a kind of puddle. But if it's not hot enough, then like you're seeing, it creates those kind of stringy elements. So I want to get it somewhere in between. And I'm just starting to work around my design. And it's just so fun. It's so fun watching the wax melt. And then it's almost like we're drawing in wax. That's what I feel like with this technique. And again, I've mentioned this in some of my other courses, but whenever I'm working with wax, I just try and picture it as metal, the metal that I'm planning to get it cast into. So I think, okay, how will this look in the metal? Is this what I'm going for? Is this the thickness that I want? Is this the kind of texture that I want? And what's really nice about the build-up technique, I mean, you can create this and then refine it and make it look like it wasn't built up, but you can leave it looking like it was built up. And I always think that that looks wonderful. It looks like buried treasure to me. It's got all the details in. So just working my way around. And yeah, I like to use the finer tip because I have that control over the shape that I'm trying to get. And I'm going to do a couple of layers of this. One thing to be aware of when you're working with wax like this, which I've learned the hard way by burning myself, is always make sure the pen is pointing slightly down, not up. Because if you get a lot of build-up and you regularly point your pen up, it can fall on you. And you really don't want molten wax to fall on you. It's not fun. Okay. So I've done one layer, so I'm just going to go around and do one more. And then we're going to need to look at the back of the piece. And again, I find with these pieces, they kind of take on a bit of their own shape, like especially in the middle. And that's part of the fun, is the molten effect. It looks almost like I've, well, melted some wax and created it into a solid shape, which is really cool. So I'm just going around and building it up. And this is again where you don't want your pen too hot because it can melt what was there before. So I found experimenting with the pens and getting one that feels a good temperature has really helped with this technique. And we do a lot of fun stuff with this in the wax diploma. We do stone setting using the build-up technique, which I absolutely love. And it's taught by the wonderful Joanne Hunt, who, her jewellery business is called Rockpool Jewellery, and she makes beautiful collections using this technique. And it's super popular. I think you'll be surprised how many jewelers use it and how many pieces can be made like this. But it's very different to carving. I love both. I love everything. It's one of my problems. I love all the jewelry making. Problems, maybe it's not a problem. But it is quite different because you're building up instead of carving away. And it requires patience, I think, because the wax takes time to go on. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. Don't worry if you get some bits drawing outside the lines. You can just heat it up and bring it back in. And we can also deal with it afterwards. So now I'm going to take it off the tracing paper and start looking at the other side. And I'm going to do a layer on the other side. So again, just being careful how to hold the piece so I don't burn myself. And I can also sort of merge it in by just touching. I don't want to rub the pen over it too much because it can remove the wax. But just gentle touches is going to make a big difference. And I'm trying to create a 3D effect so that the front and the back are the same. So I'm just going around and adding on top. And a little bit on the sides as well. Don't worry too much if your shape isn't perfectly flat. When it's so thin like this, sometimes it does curve a little bit with the heating and cooling. I wouldn't fix that in wax because you will almost definitely break the wax piece. But once it's cast into metal, you can take a mallet to it on a steel block and just very gently flatten it like you would any other piece. Another thing I found with the build-up technique is there's not so much cleanup a lot of the time. I mean, you still need to get rid of the sprue and solder on your jump ring. But because we're going for this molten effect, there aren't file marks or divots or lines that we have to deal with, which is nice. Okay, so now I've sort of done a round on the back, I'm just gonna take a look at both sides and see what I want to do and just sort of do my finishing touches really before I want to send it off for casting. I'm just using the heat pen as my tool to create the shape and designs that I'm looking for. But like I said, we're doing a simple heart in this little tutorial today, but using this same technique, you can do all sorts of shapes and explore and play. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just going to turn off my heat pen. Always turn it off if I'm not using it. So you can see very quickly, very simply, we were able to turn a design, a picture into a piece of wax, which I can then get cast and pop a little jump ring on either in the middle or at the side. To hang it at the side would be very cute as well. You can play around with your designs, you can play around with scale. You can ask your children to draw a piece like I did. And yeah, the world is your oyster. You can really experiment, explore and play, get them cast, turn them into a beautiful finished piece. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. In the Jewellers Academy Facebook group is a great place to get support with your making and your designs. But I would love to see your makes as always, so do come and share them with me over on Instagram at Jewellers Academy. Let me know if you've enjoyed the tutorial today, and I just look forward to seeing how your jewelry journey unfolds and see you on another course very soon.